Hey guys, this is going to be a short video on, well, essentially falling asleep talking to someone that's going through some health stuff. And if you're someone that's going through some health stuff, or you're just like interested in learning about, um, I don't know, this unknown world that you might not have experienced, because it really is like a different type of world, um, then yeah, just sit and listen with me. I'll basically talk through like my journey. I'll talk through like what I think are common experiences when it comes to this kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, hopefully it'll help you doze off, or maybe it'll help you take your mind off the pain. Um, yeah, have a listen, see if it's interesting to you, and we'll go from there. So you can either shut your eyes and just listen to my voice, occasionally check in and see what I'm doing, or you can just listen along and maybe get bored of me and then fall asleep. Okay, so to start, I've had a pretty long journey. I really have. I've in 2020, I was working. Um, I was working at a commercial cleaning company as a digital marketing. Um, I was working there doing digital marketing, and I was working one day. I stood up, and I just felt like dizzy, and my palms were sweating, and I still don't fully know what that was till this day, but I think it could have either been like a panic attack um, or something else, which I will go into later, and it will make sense as to why that might have happened. Anyway, I just didn't feel right. I went home that night, and I sat on my couch, and I remember I just got like a brain shock. Like I was just sitting there peacefully. I felt mostly fine, and then yeah, I just got like a little zap. And I'm notorious for, like, back then I was notorious for really hating the idea of like surgery and stuff. It always freaked me out more than the average person for some reason. I don't really know why, but to me the idea of like having a knife cut through your chest, or like having your brains messed around with, like, that's terrifying to me personally. I think I'm a bit more susceptible to it now, because I think when you're in pain, like, you just want to get it done. Like, even my mum said to me, she was like, I was terrified to give birth, and then once I was there, like, I just wanted the baby out of me. And I think it's definitely a truth to that. Um, anyway, sidetrack. One of my symptoms is brain fog, by the way, so I do sometimes like lose where I'm going. But um, yeah, so I was on the couch. I got the brain shock, and I just felt like I'd never felt anything like that before. So it was a bit of a strange one for me. Um, and I freaked out. To put it politely, I absolutely freaked, because I thought, oh, I did exactly what you're not supposed to do, and I went straight to the worst case scenario, which was that I thought I might have a brain tumor. And so I went to the doctors, and I was really anxious and nervous about it. Um, and they were like, no, it just sounds like anxiety. And so I felt a lot better after that, and basically just tried to work on not feeling so anxious. I was pretty stressed out at work. I had some life stuff go on. My parents got a divorce. I like lost a long-term partner at the time, and yeah, life was just kind of stressful. I also just moved to the city, so I lived on the Sunshine Coast in Noosa for a good, I don't know, 10 years. Then I moved back to Brisbane, because I was kind of in that stage of life where I'd just finished uni, and I was, um, yeah, I don't know, just had a lot on. And I think I kind of have, like, I'm a bit of a type A personality. Like I've always want to be doing something, and I'm quite like I like doing my own thing. Like I like starting businesses and stuff. So I was trying to like start a digital marketing agency at the time while I was like in between my job. Um, and yeah, I was playing like futsal. I was doing jiu-jitsu. I felt like I was trying to look after all my siblings after the divorce with my parents. Um, and I think it all just kind of like built up on me. And then there's like some cars in the background and stuff. Um, I think it's nice ambient noise, but if it bothers you, then, you know, hopefully it doesn't. Anyway, uh, yeah, so I was real stressed out. So what did I do? I went to, well, actually before that, I had, I, when that episode happened at work and the brain sap happened, I started to get like weird vision. Like I woke up and it was like everything was brighter than it should be, and it was strained. Like for example, if I looked at the TV and I was looking at someone's face, I could only really focus on like one eyeball at a time instead of like seeing the whole picture. It was quite narrowed, which I equated to anxiety because I know that like when your nervous system is stressed, it tends to like narrow down its focus to survive. So I thought, okay, that's what's going on. Anyway, proceed to through to the next 1 to 2 years. I spent I went to countless doctors because I didn't really believe it. Like I just didn't feel right. I went to the the doctors, and I think I also got like thoracic back pain at that point, as well, and I was getting headaches, and so I went to the doctors, and probably like 4 or 5 times they told me I had anxiety, and then I said, oh, like my back, it's no good, um, and all this, and they said, all right, well, we'll put you into physio, and we'll get you talking to a psychologist. So I said, all right, sounds good. Let's like work through this because I'm not really the type to. I've always been the type, like I'm quite aware of like all that like trauma stuff and da da da, and I am the type to like talk about my feelings and stuff. I grew up in a family where we all just like talked about whatever was going on in our head. I'm the oldest of five, so I always had someone to chat to. Which I think was also a hard transition because I essentially went from like always having someone there to living in an apartment with a housemate and not really like spending as much time with my family as I used to. I still have some of my friends nearby, but yeah, I don't know. You just like your siblings know you pretty well. Anyway, yeah, I did the physio. That just made me feel worse. Like it didn't help at all. I did the chiropractor, which actually did help for like 2 to 3 days at a time. So I went like 3 times a week just to cope to be able to go to work. Because if I didn't do it, like I'd get really bad back pain and I'd get a really bad headache. And yeah, that just kind of helped me get through that period. And then from there, I was like, oh, well, this isn't working. Like I've spent nearly $2,000 on chiros, and I think I got like 5 or 10 free sessions for the physio, so that was like I didn't have to pay for that. But then I did have to pay for the psychologist. Now, here's the interesting part. The psychologist said that it really annoyed me, to be honest, because I went in there and I was feeling really quite terrible. And she was probably like, I don't know, 21 years old. She's like clearly just started. And she was telling me these things about like how the brain works, like how your amygdala activates when you're in a survival state, which I already knew. Like I already knew all that stuff. So I kind of like cut her short. I said, look, I'm paying, just to be honest, like I'm paying you $160 just to be here. And you're telling me things I already know. Like, is there anything else that we can kind of go through? And I said, I've been to the doctor like 5 or 10 times, and they always tell me it's anxiety, but it doesn't feel like anxiety. It feels like something more serious. And and I obviously wasn't fully aware of like what anxiety can do at that point. I was just like, what? Anxiety is just like you feel anxious, you know. You don't feel like actual physical symptoms, but of course you do. Anxiety can be quite intense. And I do think that I did have anxiety because I was stressed about. I was stressed because I felt like I was in pain, and it felt like I was like slowly dwindling away to not be able to do the things that I usually did. I think anyone would feel anxious in that situation, personally. Anyway, she actually ended up telling me that I had somatic symptom disorder, which I was like, what? And the way that she found that out was she looked in the DSM book or whatever it's called. She looked in it the day before and was like, yeah, that sounds like him. But I feel like you just shouldn't you should like. I'll kind of go into this a little bit more, but just to recap why I think that was so frustrating at the time was because, one, like, I feel terrible. We should do tests. We should do an MRI. We should like rule things out first before we say that it's anxiety. And two, like, if you're gonna diagnose someone with something, at least actually fully understand the condition before you do. It was just like, it just didn't feel right to me, and it still doesn't sit with me today. Anyway, from there I kind of just like continued on my journey. I got a job in sales, so I was still like functional at this point. I just felt not great, but still like was able to go to work, still able to drive, still able to cook and clean for myself, go to the gym. I was going to the gym like 5 or 6 days a week. The main thing at this point was just like a very strong headache whenever I was like upright. And then when I finished at the end of the day and laid down, I'd feel better. So yeah, I went on. That kind of continued for about a year or so. I did like the physio. I did everything that I was supposed to do, and none of it worked. And I was like, well, what now? You know? So I kind of went down. I was like, right, well, maybe it's an emotional issue. And so I focused on the meditation side of things. I did. What else did I do? Yeah, I did meditation. I did hot yoga. I did somatic tracking. I hired like an anxiety coach. I literally did everything. I was like, at least everything that I thought I could do back then. And again, it just didn't work. Like, I just felt like I was getting worse. So anywho, there was like, at this sales job there, I got to this point where I was doing all right. Like, I was working 6 days a week. I mean, yeah, I was working heaps because I had the marketing agency and the sales job. And then I went to the gym one day. And by the way, like, it's very hard to remember everything. So if my brain's a bit scattered, I apologize. But essentially, like, those symptoms, they would just like come and go. Like, it would always fluctuate. That's kind of what made me like go down the anxiety route as well. Because like, if it was a constant permanent structure, then it would probably be like, well, it would be constant, right? So I did, yeah, I started going down the emotional route. And I kind of just like tackled both. Like, I was going to the gym 6 days a week because at the time I was like, oh, maybe it's because I'm in a desk job. Maybe I've got bad posture or something, you know? And so I was like, I had a gym plan, and I was going, and I actually got to a point. So I'm not like a super big guy. I'm 5'9", probably like, I don't know, 75 kilos, something like that. But I was deadlifting 120 kilos at some point, which I thought was that's like the most I'm not a huge gym guy. Like, I like the gym, but I've never, like, for example, my brother's like way into it. But 120 was pretty good for me. I was pretty happy with that. And also, like, throughout that, I was still doing jiu-jitsu and stuff. But whenever I did jiu-jitsu, futsal, or the gym, I noticed that my symptoms would, like, flare up. And I was like, that's strange. Um, anyway, I was at sidetracked again, but I really want to give you guys, like, as much context as possible, because I know that when I'm saying it, I have, like, the history in my head, but I'm trying to, like, give you as much, like, help you get to know my story as much as possible. So after that, I went to the gym one night, and it was probably like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It was dark, and because my schedule then was like, get up at 7, go to work, finish at 5, get home at 6, work on the agency till like just for like 2 hours or something, and then I would go to the gym, and then I'd go to sleep and start the next day. Anyway, I go to the gym, and I had like a fine workout. I did deadlifts, I did shoulder shrugs. Anyway, got in my car, sat down, and I just had like, from what I know, like the biggest migraine I've ever had in my life. It was quite scary. Like, I sat down, I looked down at my fingers, and for example, like, I couldn't see this finger, and even just like, and I've kind of had like mini versions of this when I was younger, and so I was like, oh crap, I'm having a migraine. And so I quickly drove home because I was like 5 minutes away, and usually like a migraine takes, like, it builds. It's not just like an instant thing, but I did, like, the first thing that comes is like the vision stuff, but then you can still like see fine. And I didn't want to be having a migraine like in the middle of a car park, so quickly drove home, and then I just laid down in bed, got some water, and as the time went on, like, I just had like the worst headache of my entire life. Like, it was so painful. It felt like someone, it was like right, no, it was on this side, right here, and it honestly, it felt like someone had a knife in my head and was just like jiggling it about. It was so painful. Like, I really hope I don't have to go through that again. It was so bad. And I just like couldn't sleep, and I genuinely thought like, oh my god, like this is it, I'm out. Yeah, it was pretty bad, but anyway, like, it tended to, like, it lasted till the morning, and then I had like the lingering effects of the migraine, but I didn't, like, I felt a lot better. Time goes on. I knew in my head, I was like, I'm just getting worse, and my my mum had just moved over to, because I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna work. Like, at this point, like, I'm just not feeling well enough. I'm struggling. Like, I would just, every time I stood up, I'd just get like a jarring headache, and it was just like, and it was like the neurological symptoms too. Like, it wasn't just a headache. It was like, I feel like some people might watch this and be like, oh dude, you got a headache, like, get over it. I've had headaches where I just get over it, but this is just like a different thing. Like, it really felt like someone just had a knife in your head, or like someone was like blowing a balloon in your. It was like different sensations each time, but it wasn't nice. And so I started thinking, like, what am I gonna do? Because like, I can't afford to keep paying rent and stuff like that if I'm not going to be able to work. So I was like, right, my mum's just moved to England, and I want to be with her anyway, because, like, I'm not a big, I want to say I'm a big tough guy, but sometimes when you're not feeling well, sometimes you just want your mum around. And so I said I'm going to move to England, and I did. And I went relatively quickly. I think I left, like, I thought about doing it, and then I left like 2 weeks later. Also, for context, I lived in Australia for 20 years, but I was actually born in England. So I moved to Australia when I was 7, and then I lived in Australia till I was like 27, so 20 years later. And then now I've lived in the UK for 2 or 3 years. Um, so yeah, I like moved there, and I was like, oh, finally I can rest, because I just felt like I needed to lay down for like a week. My body was just like so taxed at this point. So that's what I did. I kind of like, I didn't have a job lined up and things like that. Yes, and I still had my agency going. So like, I had some clients that I could work with remotely. So I was lucky to be able to do that. But yeah, I just kind of like relaxed at home and stayed with my mum and my brother and one of his mates. And I was like okay at that point, but I was starting to dwindle. Like, I noticed one time I got up. At this point, like, I was in bed a lot, but I felt like it wasn't necessarily because like I felt like I had to be. It was because I was exhausted. Like, I just went to uni and I was working part-time job. And then I got out of uni, got a job straight away. I was like working so I was just like constantly working for years. And I think it just kind of exhausted me on top of all the other stuff like the divorce and da 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 da. And there's more, but I don't want to go into everything because, you know, you don't want to blurt out all your shit. um, but yeah, I uh, I got there, and I felt like a little bit better because I finally got to relax and sleep. But then after a while, it got a little bit worse. Like, when I first got there, actually, I actually did like some road trips around England with my mum, and she kind of like showed me places that she'd been when she was younger, and like we went down to Cornwall and like Bath and all these other random places. It was really nice. Did like a nice road trip with my mum. Um, and like, I still had symptoms. Oh, actually, I also went all the way around Europe too. So I was doing like substantially better in regards to like being able to relax and kind of take life easy for a little bit before I got a job, because I had like a bit of savings. Um, and so I did that, and I like enjoyed life for a bit, and then after that I got home, and I was like, right, I got to start thinking about, like, I had my clients and stuff. I was making a bit of money off that, but it wasn't like enough to get by. And so I started, well, like, it was enough to get by, but I obviously wanted to make a bit more money because it didn't take that much time to do. So I had like a decent amount of money, but I also had lots of time, and I wanted to utilize it because I'm not really the type to just want to lay down. I needed a break, but I didn't want to stop, if that makes sense. And so I got a job working in a bar because it was an easy job, but just while I was like looking for a marketing job, because my brother worked in that bar, so it was pretty much like guaranteed that I'd get the job. So I did that for a bit, and also it was like a good way to make some friends, so, which I did. Like, we went out a couple times, and again, like, I still had the headache stuff, but I wasn't like fully decapitated. um, and but yeah, there was like times where I had to stop, and like, I quit my job. I quit the sales job. I quit the job at EduClean. I quit the job at um. Well, I quit the job at the bar in the end. I had to quit the job in the marketing agency that I'll tell you about in a second. Like, the amount of times I've had to quit a job because my brain and my body physically couldn't cope. Even if like, the thing is, like, it might have just been the case that my body couldn't cope for like 2 weeks or a month. But when you've got an employer, like, it's just a long time, which I get. Um, but yeah, it was difficult because I didn't necessarily want to quit some of those jobs. I wanted to keep working, but I just felt like I couldn't. So, yeah, in the end, I was working in that job, and I had quite a bit of fun. Like, I made good friends, and like, I feel like I got to meet people in England, which is cool. And then I also had like my brother and his mate, who I ended up becoming good friends with him. And then I actually ended up moving to Nottingham for a bit with my brother and his mate. And we had a bit of fun up there too. Like we went out for coffees in the morning. We occasionally went to like a bar or something for a drink. But again, I was just like struggling. I had to lay down for like most of the day. But then when I did those things, like I'd get up for those things, but then I'd still have to lay down for most of the day um, to be able to manage those things, if that makes sense. So I was still doing stuff, but I just couldn't like hold it. And then I got a job in a bar in Nottingham. Well, I kind of did. I did one shift, got halfway through the shift, and then I just felt absolutely terrible and I had to go home. And it just made no sense to me. Like I was just in this like fluctuating cycle, and I was like, it um, has to be like anxiety or something. But it was like intense. Like you feel like you're gonna die, kind of intense, where like your brain's just like you're disoriented. Like you feel like you're gonna like pass out, and the room's like spit. It's I understand that like those things can happen with anxiety, but it was so much stronger than that. And I don't think I've even met a single person in my life that has experienced what I've experienced, which can be like not a nice feeling because you know when you're not feeling well, you don't want other people to be sick, but you do want to relate to people. Um. So yeah. Anyway, with all that, I actually went down a route of thinking, oh my god, maybe I've got CCI because I saw like a video about it one time. CCI, if you're not familiar, it's called cranial cervical instability. It's basically when like the vertebrae in your upper neck shift slightly, and it can put pressure on the nerves and things like that in that area, which can like create neurological symptoms. So I got tested for that. I did like MRIs and like I did like an upright lateral. I did flexion and extension. Like I did the whole as much as I could possibly do, and everything came back normal. So I was like, all right, cool. But they did find one thing on there, which was, well, there was two things. You have like I had spinal degeneration, which is just like it's pretty common now. Most people have it. I think like 40% of people have some form of spinal degeneration, and mine was mild. Like it wasn't anything where they're like, oh yeah, okay, you need to get this fixed. But I did have low-lying tonsils, which basically means that at the back of my brain, uh, at the back of my head, my brain like sags into my neck slightly. It's only 2 mils, so it's like the tiniest little bit, but it only showed up on the upright scan and not on the um, not on the supine, because I did a supine MRI, which like a laying down MRI and an upright MRI, and it only showed up on the upright MRI. Now keep in mind, like for me, this is all a discovery because I'm not a doctor. I didn't know anything about it, but over time I like learned stuff because I was, you know, I'm not feeling well. I want to research it and try to figure out what's going on. You got to be careful of doing that though, because you can get lost in it, and sometimes it can exacerbate your anxiety symptoms. So we go in, I do that, and I was just like so focused on the CCI thing and having that 2 mil brain sag. If you look at it and it's there, like in a single MRI, then it could just be like a standard variation. Like you might just have a little bit of brain sag and there's no symptoms really. Like everything's like some people just have it. But if it's there, and again, I'm not a doctor, so like don't take my words and like hold them as truth because I could be wrong. But based on my research, like what I've done looking on Google and things like that, is if the brain sags when you're upright but not when you're supine, then it suggests like a fluid issue. So anyway, oh, there's so much to this story. It's like, I mean, this has been my life for the last 5 years, so If it's not like perfectly sequential, I apologize, but I'll try and like bring it back and wrap it around. Essentially, yeah, I did that test and I just kind of like ignored it because I was told that it wasn't really relevant. Like they put it in my MRI report, but they didn't really say like anything about it. And then my doctors, like the GP and stuff, just said it was normal. And they basically said again, like, there's nothing wrong with you. We can't find anything. Anyway, at this point, I also I got this MRI later, so I'm bringing it back. This is when I was at the bar. I was driving to work one day. I was with my friend who came over from Australia, and I just got super strong chest pain, like very strong. Like I think I'm having a heart attack type chest pain, and it was like, it wasn't localized to touch. It was, it felt like deep. I also had back pain. I had shortness of breath. I had like the vision issues. And this is like all throughout the journey, but I never met the main things I had early on was like the vision issues, the headache, and like occasional back pain. But this is like when it started to progress, and this is when things like really went downhill for me. I was driving to work, got severe chest pain, and I was like, I can't go to work. So I went in to like see my boss while I was like holding my chest, and I told him I just couldn't come in because I got like really bad chest pain. I think maybe like the day before or something I had like a bit of chest pain, but it was like more of an ache. So I just like I was like monitoring it, but I didn't like, it wasn't something that I was like, okay, maybe I need to go to hospital or whatever. I just thought maybe I had like a muscle strain or something, because I'd been told, one of the doctors told me I had like a musculoskeletal type pain. That's what made me also think that I had like posture issues. And so yeah, left that, went home. Then for the next 2 weeks, I had like the most miserable time of my entire life. Like I had like a thunderclap type of headache. I had like, it was like whenever I got up, and sometimes even when I lay down, I had like such strong chest pain. I went to the I probably went to A&E like in total, like over this 5-year journey, I've probably been like 7 or 8 times, and there's like millions of other times where I should have went, but I just knew that they wouldn't say anything, because I just like, I go in, I'm like, I've got severe chest pain. They're like, they do the ECG, they do bloods, they might do like a neurological exam, and they're like, dude, everything's fine. I was like, I don't feel fine. And they're like, well, we can't help you, like, you're not dying. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, why do I feel this way? You know, why do I feel so bad, and yet everything's fine? So then I started like, I'd ruled out the CCI thing, and I didn't really know what else. So I was like, maybe I've got like a fibromyalgia, or there's another thing called like central sensitization, which is when it's kind of like, it's very, I think they're very similar. I don't know, but I know that central sensitization is when like pain in your body just gets amplified like tenfold. So you might like have like an old injury in your knee, but your knee's feeling like it's like popping off. So I thought, oh, maybe I've got that. Like, maybe I've got like some muscular strain in my chest, and like blah blah blah. Anyway, they didn't do any further testing, and doctors kind of suck in that regard, because they just like ask you what your symptoms are, they do the tests, and then they're like, cool, no, you're all good. But they don't really like think, wait, hang on a sec, this guy's in like severe pain, we need to like look further into this. And like, if you're not a doctor, you don't know what tests you're supposed to get. Like, you're supposed to go, and they're supposed to tell you, right? Like, or not like tell you what you need to do, but, well, yeah, tell you what you need to do, and then it's up to you on whether or not you want to do it. Like, that should be how it is, in my opinion. But yeah, it was just kind of like, no, you're fine. Like, one time I got sent home with Panadol, and I was like, and I'd been in the ER for 16 hours. It was crazy. Also, I know this probably isn't like, maybe it's not great for you to sleep for. But maybe it is. Maybe you're a weirdo like me, and it does, like, just listen to someone talk like makes you dozy. Um, and also I think, like, for me, if I heard someone talking about this when I hadn't had any, like, I hadn't heard of anyone who felt the same way, it would make me feel heard, you know? And I think that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help me, if that makes sense. Like, I'm hoping that I can talk to someone that needs to talk to someone, if that makes sense. Because for me, like, I wish that I had someone that I could talk to that was going through what I was going through. And I kind of did at one point. When I thought I had the CCI, like, I was in, like, these groups, and I could, like, talk to people about it. And I actually made a really good friend out of it too. But yeah, once we figured out that he had CCI and I didn't, I think we were both stressed out, you know. Life gets stressful, and it's bad to talk to people too much as well, because you don't want to, like, get caught in this cycle of just constantly talking about it. Like, I know I'm talking about it a lot now, but I try my best not to talk about it really if I can. Like, it's better to distract your mind. It's better to, like, stay positive. If you're just sitting and dwelling on about, like, all this pain that you've got, then you're just going to be miserable. And yes, I'm stuck in bed. Yes, I can't work. Yes, I can't drive a lot of the time. Like, I can occasionally go out on a short drive or whatever, but then I'm just like, I'm screwed after that. My life is in a pretty shitty situation, like, I'm not gonna lie. But what are you gonna do? Like, you can either be in the dumps about it, or you can just get on with it. And like, one thing I always say is faith over fear. Like, keep your faith and try not to fear the future. Just accept what comes and have faith that you'll get better. Which I still have faith that I'm going to get better. Because and I'll explain why in a sec. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, but I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. And so I just want to keep talking about, like, having faith in that situation and why I have faith in the situation. One, because I haven't been diagnosed with anything. Like, in the medical consensus, I'm perfectly fine. But then, yeah, like, I still have doubts. I still have times where, like, you know, I don't feel like I'm gonna get better. I think that's natural, but I always try to bounce back. And then two, like, there's still tests that I haven't done. And I think that's what frustrates me about doctors, is they never told me that I need to do more things. Like, I should try and rule out things that aren't immediately life-threatening, but that can, that can essentially be fixed or that become chronic, but that can essentially be fixed. And then there's also, like, the nervous system dysregulation side of things. So, like, with your nervous system, it can become extremely dysregulated, and it can cause a lot of the problems that I have, like headaches, chest pain, dizziness, light sensitivity. Like, all of those things can be from anxiety. But I also think that I'm not, like, overly sold on that. I think that there's a part of my symptoms that are like that because I've been in pain for so long that I probably have become a bit sensitized. But I don't really think that that's the whole picture, because I wouldn't call myself an overly anxious person. Like, when I'm in pain, like, I've got chest pain right now, and a lot of people in this moment would be freaking out because they'd be like, oh crap, like, I've got chest pain, I need to call A&E. But when you've had pain for, like, such a long time, you understand that it does tend to come and go. There's always that chance that it won't. But I think at the same time, like, you just, I don't know, you just kind of stop caring about it, and you know that the A&E aren't gonna do anything. So because you've already done everything, so you kind of just have to sit through it, which sucks. It actually sucks because you just feel like no one's really like supporting you. But at the same time, like doctors aren't trained to the A&E is not trained to talk about things that aren't immediately life threatening, even if they feel life threatening. Yeah, I actually wrote I wrote in my notepad all the symptoms I had the other day, and it was like 30 to 40. It was crazy, but they all like fluctuate in intensity, and sometimes I have them for ages and then they'll go. Like I didn't have chest pain for like a few months, and then it just came back and hit me like a rock. Like again, it felt like someone had a knife in my chest. And yeah, my symptoms are very like upright dependent as well. I still get them when I lay down. Like I said, I've still got chest pain now, but it's more like a mild ache. Like it's like a 3 or 4 out of 10 rather than like an 8 or a 9. And so yeah, basically over the last 2 years, I've had a real tough time. Like I haven't worked in 2 years. I can't do. I can occasionally. Like it depends how flared up I am, but like I struggle to do the dishes, the washing, like eat for myself. And I was so lucky because I found my partner like 2 years into this. I don't know how, because like I've just got so much shit going on, but I was like kind of okay when I met her, and when I met her, I actually thought I had occipital neuralgia, which is when like a nerve in your back of your neck's like compressed, and I thought, oh, that maybe that's it, and like I think I went and got not long after we met, like I went and got prolotherapy, which is when they put like basically like it strengthens the ligaments in your neck. So I went and did that, and again that helped for like 2 or 3 days, and then it stopped. I think it was probably like a bit of placebo. I think I did like 5 sessions of that, but again, it didn't help. And then I did, well, yeah, I just like, and I also had a job at that point, so I wasn't like completely, but I had to work like laying down, or at least at the very most like sitting and then laying down and then sitting and then laying down. So I was still like able to do most things, but not, but like sporadically, if that makes sense. And then one day I just got like a really bad flare, super strong chest pain. Like I think I called A&E like 3 times over that period because I really thought that like there was something serious going on. And I was having panic attacks like once a day. It was crazy. Yeah, I would never want to go through that ever again. I really hope that I don't. But anyway, that kind of subsided, and I was like, and the reason why it subsided, which makes me think that there is like a nervous system element to this, is I went and saw a neurologist for the first time because it was actually really hard to get in touch with a neurologist on the NHS. But eventually I was able to go private. So I actually went private and spoke to a neurologist, and he was actually like, he was kind of like this old guy that was like no nonsense kind of thing. And I went in there, I was like, I think I've got CCI. I need to do a lateral x-ray. No one will let me do it without evidence, but I need to do one. He was like, I don't think you have CCI. I was like, well, I think I do. So can we just do it so that we can, because my theory is like, if someone's really suffering, just rule it out. Like, I don't want your opinion. I've been given opinions that were wrong many times. Like, I want cold hard evidence. Anyway, we went and took the x-ray, did lateral x-rays, and my vertebrae was like perfectly aligned, not even a mil or two out. And he comes back and he shows me it, and I go, what? And my mind was blown, because like for me at the time, CCI was like my #1 thing, and I thought for sure that's what I had. I was so like, I had such a strong conviction on that because I had that friend that had CCI, and our symptoms were so similar. Like, it was like talking to a mirror. And yeah, it turns out he had it, but I didn't. Is that a good thing? Yeah. Is it a bad thing? Kinda, because also at the same time, it means that I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I don't want CCI though, because you can't, it's actually, CCI is like a tough thing to get, because you can't really, unless you want to get like major neck surgery, you can't get it treated in the UK. You have to go to America, where this guy like injects stuff in. It's like prolotherapy, but it's like more intense. They go like right into the joint. It's too hard to explain in this video, but um yeah, it's like, and it costs a lot of money. You can only do it privately. I think it's like, yeah, it's a lot of money. There's also a lady that does it in Europe that does it a bit cheaper, but I think she hasn't been doing it for as long, and you don't, like, it can be risky, so you kind of want someone that has been doing it for a while. But again, it's an option. If you're listening to this and you think you've got CCI, like, rule it out, do the tests that you need to do, and yeah, just be sure. Or if you don't, then don't. But I feel like yeah, your brain can kind of trick you into thinking you've got things, so be careful of that too. Because if you like, I don't know, I'm reading a book at the moment. It's called Unlearn Your Pain by Dr. Howard Schubiner. It's this one. It's really good. He talks about like neuroplastic conditions, but he also talks about like how people can get sick just by like watching a TikTok, because they like learn about the symptoms, and then like a few days later they start to get them. And I've had that too, like with the CCI thing. Like, at the time, my neck pain was so bad, and I still get neck pain, but like nowhere near. I had to wear a neck collar, like, just to stand up, and I also like had like lump in throat sensations and things like that. But again, like, we looked at that, the structural stuff, it wasn't there. So I think neuroplastic conditions are so like definitely real, and I do think you can get yourself in a state if you're not careful. So you do have to be careful of that. But then on the other hand, I really, really did the work, because once I had spoke to that neurologist, he told me he thinks I have a functional disorder, which I thought meant FND, but I don't really think he meant that. Like, I think he meant like I had, I don't know, sensitization or like something along those lines. There's like the fibromyalgia, things like that. But he didn't specify. He just said a functional disorder, because he couldn't find anything wrong with me. However, it goes so much deeper than this. And again, diagnosing with someone with a functional disorder is about ruling out other conditions first. And I think that's what frustrates me about doctors, is they have big egos, and they don't like being wrong, so they diagnose you with this like label that tells you that they're right and they know what it is. But like, basically, if you get diagnosed with a functional disorder and you haven't ruled everything out, you kind of like, they're just guessing, and that's not good enough when it comes to like, I personally think that's not good enough when it comes to your life. Like, you need to know what's wrong. You need to know for certainty, and unless you've done like all the tests, you're just not gonna know. Anyway, after that, I was elated, because I didn't think about all this stuff. I just thought, holy crap, like, there was nothing on my x-ray, there was nothing on my upright MRI, like, my bloods are normal, my ECG's normal, everything must be fine. So I felt great. And do you know what the weird thing was? That day, like, I had a neck collar on for like 3-4 months at this point. He told me to take the neck collar off. I took it off. I walked out of that hospital. I felt better than I've felt in a long time, and I sat in the car and drove in the front seat. It was only a 5-minute trip home, but it was the first time I've done that in ages. Whereas before, I had to lay down on the back seat just to be able to get to my doctor's appointments because I couldn't be upright for longer than a few minutes. And that night I went home and I did a little dance for the first time because I was so happy. I was like, wait a second, there's nothing wrong with me. And that always sticks in my mind because I'm like, right, if it wasn't a neuroplastic condition, how would I be able to do that? You know? And sometimes I think I'm going crazy because I just feel like I'm being gaslit constantly. But yeah, I spent a year. I went and saw a functional therapist and we did physio. I stopped Googling symptoms. I stopped even thinking about my illness. I read like books like the one that I just showed you on Lonely Pain, and then there's another one called The Way Out, and then there's just like a bunch, like there's a few other things as well, and they're all about like neuroplastic conditions and like functional disorders and things like that. So I just like dedicated myself. Like I meditated every day, like twice a day. I stuck to my physio like to a T. I was in like severe pain and I'd still do like my workouts, or I'd get up and I would like wobble because I can't stand up straight without feeling like I'm gonna fall over, and I would like just walk in a straight line, or they gave me like a balance board and I'd balance on that, or yeah, like I did everything to a T, and I actually was like fully convinced that that's what I had too. So I was like, I had full belief in it. I was listening to a lady called Claire Weeks who really helped. Um, I'm gonna go now because my partner's just got home, but I'll be back in 2 seconds. Right, I'm back. Yeah, so I had full belief in what was happening, so I just stuck with it for like a year. And you know what the crazy thing is? I actually got better. Not better. Like I still couldn't work, but I was like around the house. I managed to start doing the dishes. I was like working on projects, like we were building the kitchen together and things like that. Like I was actually starting to like get stuff done. I felt like I was getting my life back, like it was working. Um, and yeah, it was a good time, and it opened my eyes up to like the power of the brain, because I do think your brain is a powerful tool. However, and this is the but, about, well, a couple times in between, I would just like crash, and I was like, right, your nervous system can like get better and then it can crash. Like it's just how it works. It's not like a straight trajectory. It's a bit of a cycle. So I'd crash and then I'd get a little bit better. I'd take like a few days and then I'd get a little bit better. But then, like, probably like 9 months to a year later, just a massive crash again. And I was like, what? What is going on? Like, I did everything right, you know? I did everything right. It makes no sense. Why did that happen? Like, I was playing badminton once or twice a week. I was going to the gym again. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect. Like, I still felt terrible on a lot of days, and there was days where I just like pushed through the pain because I was like, this is neuroplastic. Like, I need to show my body that I'm safe. And like, you know, I'd had all these severe symptoms, but I'd never had like a major episode where I almost died or whatever. It feels like I almost died, but like I didn't actually. Um, and so yeah, I just kind of pushed through it, and then the yeah, year later, things just went south again, and it just made no sense. And it was frustrating because I bought a business. I bought like a little cafe van, which came like last week, which is awesome, and I'm so like excited about it. It's called Roman Sip if you want to have a look on Instagram. Just a shameless plug there, but no, you might like it. It's like relaxing. We're gonna do relaxing content as well, so you might like it. But again, I don't know when I'm gonna start posting because I've now like just kind of fallen on the deep end again. So Yeah, I'm now on to my next theory as I try to figure out what on earth is going on with me. So I was watching a TV show, and in the TV show, and by the way, I suspected this a long time ago, but essentially in the TV show, I can't remember what it was called, I've completely forgotten, but it was about this older guy that ends up moving to a retirement home, and he finds out that it's super sus and that there's a monster that comes in the night and steals your CSF fluid. And I was like, right, okay, that's interesting. um, CSF fluid. But basically, there was a doctor on the show, and he commented that like it can cause it, like if they take a bit at a time, it'll just create minor symptoms. But if the monster keeps taking your CSF fluid, then it can cause neurological problems. And so I was like, what? Okay, that's interesting. Kind of wish I didn't hear that, but hey, let's like. Unfortunately, I went down the rabbit hole again of like trying to figure out if that was something that I could relate to, and I absolutely did. So there was the upright intolerance, basically when you, and it also explained that the brain sag that I had. And so basically, when I stand upright, my CSF fluid uh, can't compensate, and so my brain sags, and that's what creates a lot of my symptoms. Like it can create the headaches, it can create the chest pain, it can create the back pain, like all of my symptoms, because essentially it stresses your nervous system. Um, and it can also like pull, because obviously you've got nerves that run out of your back, and when your spinal column um, is sagging, like it stresses the nerves. So it made a lot of sense, but it wasn't like to the T description. Because if you look up on Google CSF leaks, they'll say like fluid running out of your nose, like a big headache when you stand up, blah blah blah. Like there's all this stuff. But I was like, yeah, like kind of sounds like me, kind of doesn't anymore. Because my primary symptoms weren't the headache anymore. Like the headaches kind of faded. Anyway, to not bore you with too much medical jargon, I did a MRI contrast, so they put like fluid in you so they can see better, and they checked for like the fluid symptoms. Um, they couldn't find anything, but obviously I had that upright MRI which showed the brain sag, which is an indicator of CSF fluid, like a dynamic issue. Um, the other condition that I think that I might have, which relates to CSF leaks, is every time I stand up, my heart rate goes to like 100, 120, and but it never like stayed up, because I thought, oh, maybe it's POTS, but then it doesn't stay up. It just kind of like spikes, and then if I stay standing up, it does eventually like settle. Um, but apparently, like a fast heart rate upon standing with CSF leak is a common thing. They did a study, like a small study, because I think they're still trying to like figure out if POTS is linked to CSF leaks. And it said that 100% out of it was only a small study. It was like 17, no, like 36 people or something like that, and 100% had them. And then when they got the CSF leak fixed, their symptoms went away. Not straight away, unless they haven't had the leak. If they haven't had the leak for long, it will go away straight away, or mostly straight away. But if it's been chronic, then it takes like a couple of months, a few months realistically to like recover. Because even though the leak's sealed, like your nervous system still had to go through like a really stressful period, and it takes time for it to calm down. So anyway, I have done that MRI contrast, and it didn't really show anything apart from like spinal degeneration. But the thing with CSF leaks is they can be intermittent, and they can also it's like 20% of people that get the MRI scan you can't see anything. And in chronic cases, your body adapts to the low CSF fluid. So for example, like when you first get a CSF leak, your brain, like the veins in your brain like expand, and your brain sags, blah blah blah. But when you lay down, it compensates, so the fluid can go up, and then everything like goes back to normal. And so it's really common to miss it, like 1 in 5 people. And I think because I do have such a clear symptom profile, sorry, once you do more research into CSF leaks, the ones you see on Google are about like cranial head leaks or neck, but they don't talk about the fact that you can get them in your thoracic spine or your lumbar spine. And so, thoracic area, sorry. And they just have a different symptom profile, like they can show up differently, hence the chest pain, hence why I don't have a leaky nose. It explains why I get a headache every time I stand up. Or like not every single time, but like the longer I stand up for, I'm gonna get a headache. And yeah, it just kind of all made sense, like the racing heartbeat, blah blah blah. So anyway, I'm very conscious of the fact that with the CCI stuff, I kind of was like, I had a very strong conviction that that was it. But I've decided, like, before I go down the functional route, just because I am bedbound, I can't work. Like, you don't often hear people that have just, like, nervous system stuff be fully bedbound and unable to work. Usually it's like they struggle to work sometimes, they have to go home early, or, like, you know, they get a bout of chest pain, but it's not, like, a constant chest pain. And so there's, like, there was just these differences. And also I wasn't, like, an overly anxious person either. So that was the other thing. Like, for me, it just, like, came out of nowhere. And I specifically remember saying to the doctors, like, yes, I have anxiety, but I'm anxious because I'm in pain, not because I'm just an anxious person. And the anxiety would just hit me out of nowhere. Like, I'd be sitting down, watching TV, living my life, happy as nails, and then all of a sudden I'm having a panic attack, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, where did that come from? That makes no sense. But yeah, the good news is I haven't had a panic attack in a long time, but I still get all the strong symptoms. So I will be going to get a blood patch at Queen's Imaging Centre in London in the next few weeks. They haven't confirmed a date yet, because it takes them a while. Like, doctors just take a long time. But I'm going to go get a blood patch, and if that doesn't work, then I'm going to get a CT myelogram to rule out a CSF leak. There's a type of CSF leak called a fistula, which doesn't show up on MRI scans. The other ones don't either, but this one's particularly frustrating. Easier to Google it than for me to explain it, because it's hard to explain. But yeah, so I guess I just wanted to, like, share my journey. You might find it relaxing to, like, hear that there's someone else in a position that you're in, or maybe you find it relaxing to know that someone's in a worse position than you are, and that maybe, like, I don't want to tell you to feel grateful. Obviously, you do it yourself. But it might make you feel grateful to know that, like, at least I'm not stuck in bed. At least I can still go to work. And that's not me throwing a pity party, because I'm genuinely not. I'm more so just, like, trying to give you perspective. And even for me, like, I can look and see someone that's got stage 4 cancer and they're gonna die in a week, and, like, you know, they've got it harder than I do. And I'm grateful for the fact that I haven't been told that I'm gonna die, you know? I think it's all about, like, perspective. You've got to stay positive, because if you don't, you'll go crazy, and you'll have like, you're not going to be positive all the time, but just make sure you bounce back to being positive. And, you know, I think the other thing was, like, I saw it on a bus sign once when I was in Brisbane in Australia, and that it just said, hold on to hope. I think that's, like, it's so important to do that. Just hold on to hope that you're going to get better. If you've been diagnosed with something that you know you can't get better from, and that it is permanent, like, try your best to manage it. And, you know, just take it one day at a time. I think that's the other thing. Take it one day at a time. Don't, they say anxiety is fear of the future or fear of the past. So if you just Focus on today, stay in today's mind, and if you catch yourself thinking too far ahead or too far behind, just remember to come back to the present. And just and even if you're like having a shitty time in the present, there's always a way to deal with it. If you're having a shitty time in the present, so I shouldn't swear, if you're having a bad time in the present, then try to remind yourself that it will pass. And if you're like me, sometimes the pain is so intense in the moment that I really don't, in my mind, I'm like, I don't think it's going to pass. I think this might be it for me. But I've also even just accepted that I might like die from it. No one's told me that I would. I've ruled out but sometimes the pain is like so severe that I'm like, that's it. Like I'm gonna cut. Like I got severe chest pain. I've been to the A&E. They're not telling me that I need to do anything. I've got an Apple Watch that tells me like, it gives me some health points, and usually that comes back relatively normal apart from the fast heart rate upon standing. But yeah, I even just have to, like, I'm not saying you should, or, it's your own personal journey, but for me personally, like, I've accepted that I might die. Because if I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die, like, this is going to be so da 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 da, I'm like, man, I got some really strong chest pain right now. Like, I'm just going to sit here, and my version of it will eventually pass could just be that I'm gonna pass away, and that, like, you might think it's strange that I laugh at that, but I don't know, there's like a peace in it. And I think, and I'm also, like, I personally believe in in God, and I believe in the fact that we're going to move on after we die. That's like a personal thing for me, but that's what I believe. And so I think even if I did pass in this life, like, I'm going to go to a better place because I'm a good guy. I've always tried to be a good guy. I don't think that I've done anything that would make me not go to heaven. I mean, there is, but nothing like super bad, things that I've spoken to God about. And but yeah, I think key takeaway: stay positive, stay present, and acceptance. Accept that this is your life right now, and don't try not to get mad about it or frustrated. Or, I know that it's not easy. I know that it's not easy. But the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And I think if you hold on to hope that you're going to get better, but you also accept that you are where you are right now, then you'll eventually make progress as each day goes by. And time flies. It really does. Like, you might think a year is a long time, but then, like, before you know it, it's 2027 or 2030, So just stick with it, stay positive, and on that note, I'm going to leave you. Let me know in the comments if you did enjoy this. It's basically just me ranting about my health stuff, but again, I didn't do it for myself. Like, I don't really like to rant. I just think that sometimes you just need to hear that someone else is going through what you're going through or something similar. Like, you want to feel like you're not alone. And I think that, like, if there was something like that out there for me, then I would definitely watch that. And I think it could help me feel less alone in the world. So I hope that I helped you feel a little bit less alone. I hope that I helped you. Hopefully you're asleep right now and you are getting rest. But if you're not and you're still awake, that's fine too. Just try not to fight going to sleep. Just stay up if you have to. That's what I do. If I'm in pain, like I'm not gonna just like shut my eyes and force myself to go to sleep. I'm just gonna sit with it, and I'm just gonna wait, because we all eventually sleep. So, just wait and go to sleep when your body tells you you need to go to sleep. But don't, again, like, comes back to the acceptance thing. Try not to get frustrated. Try not to get mad about it. Try not to, like, feel what you're feeling, of course, but don't get like caught in the loop. And just accept that you can't sleep right now, and that's fine. And I might have more videos out by now, so maybe you could watch the next one. But yeah, peace out. I love you guys, and I hope that we all eventually get better. Peace.